Welcome, everyone. Thanks for participating in our Stossel in the Classroom Town Hall with John Stossel.
So, Rob, while you look at the questions, let me introduce Madeline Peltzer.
Great, you're on.
Madeline, there she appears. So she may be able to give you teachers some tips on how to help your students write better essays or make better videos. She is a two-time contest winner, so much so that we changed the rules to prevent her from winning again because we didn't think that was fair. And I always preach that once you have rules, you shouldn't change them. But we did it to screw Madeline in this case. And then now we have hired her to be one of our essay graders. So she knows a lot about these essays. And Madeline, you have advice for teachers?
Yes, well, it's so good to be with you. I realized I think the last time we spoke was back in 2014 when I was on your show. So it's been a while. So good to be with you.
When she won the contest, we put her on.
Yes.
How old were you when you won the first one?
I was 13. That was back in 2012. And then I placed third. And then 2014 I won. And then that's when you gave me a new job.
So she's a Hillsdale student working part-time for us, but
I am, yes. I've been grading for about 5 years now. So, and I'm a senior at Hillsdale.
Can you have advice for the teachers?
Well, I can definitely speak to the perspective of the contest, having graded probably 1,500 to 2,000 essays at this point and been on the other side of it as a student myself. One of the things that I did and that I have seen from grading so many essays is you can really tell very quickly if a student knocked this out in an hour or if it was something that they really thought about. So when I was a student, my family and I would print up the prompt as soon as it came out, tape it all over our house that we could cogitate on it for weeks, for as long as we could. And we would brainstorm. I was homeschooled K through 12, so that was a benefit. We were always talking about current events, and when a prompt would come up, we would discuss it. And then when it was time to
wait a sec. I'm hearing this we stuff, which sounds like cheating, like your parents were over participating.
We talk about everything as a family, but when it came to writing, I was the writer, so I needed to do that. However, as a grader, I don't think it's cheating at all. In fact, we recommend that students find someone to proofread their piece. And I can speak as an editor of my college newspaper, having a second set of eyes is a huge benefit to us as well. Not the same thing as cheating or plagiarizing, of course, but we do appreciate a proofread. So that would be a big tip that I have. Another thing would be to just come up with an original hook. When judges are reading thousands of essays, the one that doesn't quite restate whatever the video or the topic was about, but has an interesting hook or story or an anecdote, something like that, it instantly stands out to us and we flag it as a positive thing. So that is a very easy way to grab a judge's attention. Just put yourself in the judge's shoes. You're reading thousands of these essays. If your student has something interesting, an interesting factoid or story or report, something that shows originality and deep thinking, that really is a great way to grab a judge's attention.
And you can ask questions of Madeline as well as me in a moment, but I also want to put in a plug for the video essay, because that's easier for students these days than ever in history. And when I started, or when I was in high school, the cameras were this big and cost $200,000, weighed a ton. And now we get better pictures on our iPhones, so any student can do it. There's editing software or something. I don't understand that, but kids are able to make little movies now. And that's how kids get information. So they may know more than you, but I hope you encourage them to try things. The main trick I find making my videos is you need more than just talking to the camera like we're doing now. You need illustrations. You need to see it happening. And then you need to watch it, cut it down. And ideally the student will cut it down, put it away, and then look at it again in a few days or 20 minutes later. And it's amazing how often you say, oh, I said that twice. That doesn't have to be in there. And the shorter it gets, the better it is.
Yes, if I could jump onto that, for teachers who might have juniors, seniors, but really of any age in high school, having work, whether it's a video or whether it's an essay contest, is such good work to build a portfolio. This contest is what really launched my my writing career. I went on to win 11 national essay contests in the political, constitutional, economic realm. And I am now a journalism minor at Hillsdale. I freelance for 4 different journalism organizations now, and potentially going into that. And having that that work published online and being able to have that on my resume has been a huge boost. So if cash isn't enough for your students, the professional, having that professional item to put on their resume should be a great one as well.
We're going to go to a question for Madeline from Chris Forbes.
So my students are having more difficulty with researching for this year's topic. We've been through it. We've had Socratic seminars. We've had many debates on other topics to try to get them prompted. And I've gone through the process of helping them to research the topic, but it still seems like this is more difficult than past year topics for them to deal with. It could also be the quarantine and teaching long distance, but whatever the case, any suggestions that you have to help them research this topic would be great, because it seems to be a tough one for a lot of my students.
Yeah, I mean, I think staying up on the news. I know there's still a little bit of time before the essay is due, and we see with this 24-hour news cycle, things change so quickly. So I think the fresher, the better, and your students may find an idea from the news cycle. But I also think while it's important to stay on topic, and that's something we certainly look for, the prompt is also a launching pad. So we don't want every student to just say the first thing that comes to their mind, because chances are every other student will think the same. So definitely answer the question, but there's so much room for creativity, for thoughtfulness, for thinking outside the box. So they don't need to feel too constrained and limited. I think, to me, writing for essay contests were always a little bit different than writing a school paper. A school paper is very straightforward, very five paragraph essay type of thing. Essay contests, there's more room for creativity. You're kind of putting on a show in a way for a judge, in a way that you're not for a teacher. I don't know if that's helpful, but it might help your students to sort of break free of the school mindset in that sense.
I wish Chris were still on, because I would love to know why this is more difficult to research, because entrepreneurship and obstacles to it are endless in a very broad area. I learned recently that when the first car came out, that the regulators wanted someone to run in front of the car to warn people it was coming, that it would be required for safety. So, and just the fact that Musk got the rockets up when NASA really wasn't getting it done. There are a million other examples of somebody, FedEx did it when the post office could not get it there overnight.
Yes, well, and to add to that, I think the pandemic has shown a lot of that, where the free market and private organizations have stepped up where government was too slow. I mean, we're seeing things on social media where people are organizing social media movements to bring relief to the restaurants in their own area because government is so slow. And frankly, this is kind of another, a bit of a rabbit trail, but is that government's role might be another question for students to answer, or should this be best left to the local and the individual? I am not sure if I want to necessarily be a journalist when I graduate, but I know that the skills that I've gained through interviewing people, through having to think quickly, to always think a few steps ahead, to write quickly on a deadline, to be very clear in the way that I write, because the way that you write reflects the clarity in your mind, to speak clearly, to be able to articulate idea. I think those are all skills that will come into play in the future, regardless of where students find themselves. And that's not just in writing, but I think that comes out in interpersonal skills and soft skills. But I really can't emphasize enough the importance of being able to write, whether that's writing an email or writing a 20-page research paper. I think basic communication skills and being able to connect with people, I think, are both very important. It was so good to be with you all. Thank you for having me on. We'll see you all
Thanks.
later.
We'll
Bye-bye.
see you when the essays are in.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Just a quick comment before we move on about essays. I've said this a few times, that I never had my students enter the essay contest because I always thought it, you know, a national contest, it would be very difficult for them to do well. Once I started working with Stossel in the classroom, I read essays, and I find that my students would have done well. I had bright students who worked hard, and I was a bit of a demanding teacher. And if there's one regret that I can look back on, is that we never entered the contest. So if you're out there and you're not sure if your students can handle it, try it. What's the worst that can happen? They don't win, but at least they're writing and they're researching about topics that are important in their lives.